The planet Valdara was not kind to those who sought freedom. Its skies were thick with dark clouds, and the land was jagged with rocks and deep crevices. Smoke rose in the distance, and the echoes of distant explosions reminded anyone who dared to fight here that survival was rare. Among the ruins of a shattered village, a small figure struggled through the dust. It was Leora, the young alien princess, her skin pale with exhaustion and streaked with grime. She had fought bravely alongside her rebels, but the Empire's soldiers had arrived faster than anyone expected. The ambush had been devastating. Her closest allies had been cut down, and the rest had been forced to retreat, leaving her behind. Her right leg, once a symbol of her agility in battle, now throbbed with pain. She dragged herself along the rocky ground, ignoring the sharp cuts on her arms and the dirt caked to her skin. Every movement was agony, but giving up was not an option. Not for her, not for her people. The Empire's forces were still nearby. She could hear their heavy boots pounding the ground, the low hum of their energy weapons. Her heart pounded in her chest, not only from the pain but from fear. Fear of capture, fear of what the Empire would do if they found her alone and vulnerable. The thought of being paraded in their capital, humiliated and used as a symbol of the Empire's power, made her stomach twist with nausea. Leora paused for a moment, pressing her hand to the side of her head to steady herself. She scanned the horizon through blurred vision. The village was in ruins, fire still burning in places where wooden structures had stood. Smoke rose into the sky, twisting and dark, painting the clouds with ash. She had seen destruction before, but nothing like this. Her people had fought so hard for freedom, and now everything seemed lost. A sharp pain shot through her leg. She gasped and fell forward onto the jagged rocks. The cold air stung her lungs, but she forced herself to take another breath, steadying against the sharp edges. "I can't give up," she whispered to herself. Her voice was soft, almost drowned by the wind, but the words held a firm determination. She was the princess of the rebels, and though her body ached, her spirit remained strong. She began crawling again, dragging herself over rocks and through the ash. Each movement sent fresh waves of pain through her leg, and she gritted her teeth against it. Her fingers scraped against the jagged stone, leaving streaks of blood behind, but she didn't stop. Every step forward was a victory against the odds. Leora's mind focused on one thought. She had to survive. Hours seemed to pass in silence, broken only by the distant shouts of soldiers and the occasional rumble of falling debris. Night began to fall and the sky darkened further. The temperature dropped and Leora shivered, her body growing weak from blood loss and exhaustion. She knew that without help, she would not last long. Her strength was fading and her hope dimming when suddenly a shadow moved in the distance. At first she thought it was another enemy patrol, but the figure moved differently. The steps were careful and deliberate, not heavy like the soldiers' boots. As the figure drew closer, she could make out a human, a rare sight on Valdara. Humans were visitors, usually diplomats, explorers, or observers, and rarely involved in the conflicts of alien worlds. This human was different. He wore practical gear, a small pack on his back, and carried no visible weapon. His expression was calm but alert. Leora tried to call out, but the effort left her coughing and wheezing. The human slowed when he saw her, crouching down at a safe distance. "Hey," he said gently, his voice careful and soothing. "Are you hurt? Can you move?" Leora blinked, unsure if she could trust him. Most beings who saw a wounded princess saw an opportunity, not a chance to help. But something about his calm manner, the genuine concern in his voice, made her hesitate. She nodded slightly, and the human carefully approached, kneeling beside her. "Don't try to stand yet," he said. "You've taken too much damage. Let me see your leg." Leora gritted her teeth as he examined her injury. The flesh was torn, bruised, and swollen. Infection could set in quickly if not treated. The human produced a small medical kit from his pack, bandages, antiseptic, and other tools that she did not recognize. "We need to clean this," he said. "It'll sting, but it's necessary." She allowed him to work, biting her lip as the antiseptic burned against her skin. He worked carefully, not rushing, and her tension eased slightly under his calm hands. As he wrapped her leg in the bandage, she studied him silently. His skin was light, his hair brown, and his eyes had a warmth she hadn't expected. He was human, yes, but he carried an unspoken strength and confidence. Not the strength of a soldier, but the strength of someone who faced danger with clarity and courage. "You're strong," he said, looking up at her. "It takes a lot of courage to survive this long, especially alone." Leora felt a strange sense of relief. No one had praised her in hours, not since the ambush. Her allies had been gone, and the Empire's forces would never show kindness. Yet this human saw her struggle and treated it with respect, not pity. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He smiled faintly. "Don't thank me yet. You need to rest. Then we'll get you somewhere safe." Together they began moving carefully. Leora leaned on the human's shoulder for support, each step slow and painful. The terrain was rough, but he guided her with patience. They moved through the rocky plains, past broken structures and scattered debris. Each step was a challenge, but neither gave up. As they traveled, Leora began to speak, her words hesitant at first. "The Empire, they attacked," she said. "My people, my rebels. They had to leave me." "I understand," the human replied. "But you're not alone anymore. I won't leave you." For the first time in hours, Leora allowed herself to believe that she might survive. She shared more about her people, the rebellion, and the hope that had driven her to fight despite her disability. The human listened without interruption, occasionally asking questions to clarify. Though their languages were different, gestures and context allowed them to communicate. Night fully enveloped the planet, and the temperature dropped sharply. The human fashioned a makeshift shelter from debris and large rocks, helping Leora to lie down on a relatively flat surface. He covered her with a thermal blanket from his pack and checked her bandages again. "Sleep now," he said. "You need to regain strength. We have a long journey ahead." Leora closed her eyes, the exhaustion pulling her into a fitful sleep. For the first time since the ambush, she felt safe. The pain in her leg was still there, and her body still ached, but she no longer felt completely abandoned. The human had appeared when she had almost lost hope. Through the long night, the sounds of the Empire's patrols echoed in the distance, but the human kept her safe. He stayed awake, scanning the surroundings, ever alert. Leora dreamed of her people and the rebellion, of a future where freedom could exist, and for the first time, she imagined humans playing a role in that future. By dawn, the first light of Valdara's sun glimmered over the horizon. Leora opened her eyes slowly, feeling the human's steady presence beside her. He offered her water and she drank carefully, feeling her strength slowly return. The day ahead promised more challenges, traveling across hostile lands, avoiding patrols and reaching safety. But for the first time, she faced it not as a helpless victim but as a survivor with an ally she could trust. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows over the scarred landscape. Leora pushed herself to her feet, leaning heavily on the human for support. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. The journey would be difficult and danger lurked at every step, but with the human by her side, she had a chance. A real chance. And that chance, she realized, might be the first spark of hope for her people in a very long time. The morning light on Valdara revealed the harshness of the land. Rocky cliffs stretched endlessly, and the remains of burned villages marked the path of destruction the Empire had left behind. Leora struggled to walk, her injured leg still weak and swollen, but the human, Ethan, was patient. He supported her as they moved slowly, carefully avoiding jagged stones and deep fissures that could trap an unwary traveler. "Take it easy," Ethan said softly. "One step at a time. Don't push yourself too hard." Leora nodded, gritting her teeth as she took another painful step. Her pride refused to let her appear weak, but she could not deny her limitations. The Empire soldiers were still searching the area. She could hear distant mechanical hums, perhaps drones sent to scan for survivors. Her heart pounded not from exertion alone but from fear. If they found her, the consequences would be fatal. Ethan noticed her tense shoulders. "You're thinking about them," he said. "Try to focus on the ground in front of you, not the shadows behind you." She gave a small, weary smile. "It's hard," she admitted. "They don't leave any place untouched. Even the mountains. Even the forests. They find a way." Ethan nodded. "Then we move quietly. Step carefully, watch for signs of danger. We'll get through this together." For hours they traversed the barren landscape. Ethan carried a light pack with essentials, food, water, and a few medical supplies. Every so often he would stop, help Leora sit on a flat rock, and offer her something to eat. She was weak from blood loss and lack of proper nutrition, but she refused to show it. Instead, she focused on observing the land, studying patterns and memorizing paths that could help her later. "I never thought I'd be helped by a human," she said quietly as they rested for a moment. I expected cruelty or indifference, but you're different. Ethan glanced at her, a gentle smile on his face. We don't all look for war. Some of us want to help even if it's dangerous. Leora nodded, though she didn't fully understand his species. Humans were known for their unpredictability. Some were courageous and kind, while others could be careless or selfish. This human was cautious, kind, and surprisingly strong. She could feel it in the way he moved, how he assessed danger, and how he treated her injuries. As they moved forward, the terrain became more treacherous. Jagged cliffs rose on either side, and narrow paths led over sharp rocks. Leora's leg throbbed painfully with every step. Ethan held her close, ensuring she didn't slip. Occasionally, he would point to safer paths or suggest that she rest while he scouted ahead. Around midday, they reached a dried riverbed, its cracked surface stretching for miles. Ethan suggested they follow it. It's safer than climbing these cliffs, and it might lead us to water further ahead. Leora agreed, though moving along the uneven surface was difficult. Her muscles screamed in protest, but she pushed herself, determined not to slow Ethan down. As they walked, she began to share more about herself and her rebellion. My people fought for freedom, she said, her voice quiet but firm. The Empire rules with fear. They crush anyone who resists. I wanted to give them hope, even if it cost me everything. Ethan listened silently, nodding. Hope is stronger than fear, he said. Even if it's small, it can make people fight for what's right. Leora's eyes met his. You understand courage, she said. It's not about strength alone, but the will to stand for others. You risked coming here to help me. That is courage. He smiled faintly, though he didn't respond immediately. Words were not always necessary. Leora could feel the sincerity in his actions more than his speech. Together, they moved through the riverbed, the sun climbing higher, casting long shadows that danced across the cracked earth. By late afternoon, they reached a dense forest. The trees were tall and twisted, with thick foliage that blocked the harsh sunlight. It was a dangerous place. Predatory creatures often hid among the trees, but it also offered shelter. Ethan led Leora into the forest, making sure their trail was quiet and difficult to follow. This should give us cover, he said. We'll camp here for the night. You need to rest, and I need to make sure there are no predators nearby. Leora sank against a tree, exhausted but grateful. Her breathing was heavy, her leg aching, yet a small spark of hope had returned. She had survived the battlefield, endured pain, and now had someone who would help her reach safety. As night fell, the forest grew alive with unfamiliar sounds, chirps, rustling leaves, and distant howls. Ethan set up a small fire, careful to keep it low so as not to draw attention. He shared some food and water with Leora, who ate slowly, her body still weak from injuries. You've endured so much, Ethan said quietly. I've seen soldiers fall in battle, but rarely someone survive with as much strength as you have. Even wounded, you're brave. Leora looked at him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. I've never had help like this, she admitted. Not from anyone outside my people. And certainly not from a human. He shook his head gently. It's not about species. It's about helping those who need it. You survived because you never gave up. I'm just here to make sure you keep going. They spoke long into the night, sharing stories of courage, hope, and the desire for freedom. Leora told Ethan about her childhood in the royal palace, about the lessons she learned in strategy, leadership, and compassion. Ethan shared his experiences traveling to distant planets, helping where he could, and learning to trust those he met along the way. Through these stories, Leora realized that humans were not as different as she had once believed. Courage, kindness, and loyalty existed in all species, sometimes hidden, sometimes revealed in moments of need. Ethan's actions had already shown her the best of humanity. Sleep eventually claimed them both, but Leora awoke several times during the night to check her surroundings. The forest was alive, but Ethan's presence reassured her. His careful movements and quiet vigilance made her feel safe in a way she had not felt since before the ambush. She leaned on him as dawn approached, her injuries still painful, yet her determination unwavering. The next day, their journey continued. The forest thinned, revealing rolling hills and valleys, but danger was never far away. They avoided patrols and rogue machines that wandered the landscape, relying on Leora's knowledge of the terrain and Ethan's quick thinking. She marveled at his ingenuity, how he could spot traps, navigate difficult paths, and improvise solutions in moments of crisis. "I've never seen anyone like you," Leora admitted as they paused on a hilltop overlooking a valley. "Your mind, it works differently. You see solutions where others see obstacles." Ethan laughed softly. "Experience, mostly. I've had to think fast to survive in places like this. But you have courage. That's something you can't learn from experience. That's inside you." They descended into the valley, moving slowly. Leora's leg made every step a challenge, but she refused to complain. Ethan helped when necessary, but he encouraged her to rely on her own strength as well. Every small victory, a step forward, a safely navigated obstacle, was a triumph. By evening, they reached a small cave that could provide shelter for the night. Ethan checked it carefully before allowing Leora to rest. She leaned against the cool stone, her body aching but her spirit stronger than the day before. "You're doing well," Ethan said. "Each step we take brings us closer to safety. And you're teaching me something too, about patience, determination, and courage." Leora smiled faintly. "I never thought a human could teach me anything, but I suppose we learn from everyone we meet." As night fell, the stars above Valdera shone brightly, and Leora felt a sense of hope growing within her. The human beside her had shown her that even in the darkest moments there could be light. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous, but together they had a chance. A real chance. And for the first time since the ambush, Leora believed she might survive. Not just for herself, but for the hope of her people, and the possibility of a future where courage and compassion could overcome fear and oppression. The valley was quiet at first, but that calm was deceiving. As Leora and Ethan continued their journey, they became aware of the strange sounds around them. Low growls, rustling bushes, and faint, almost whispering movements in the shadows. Valdera's forests and valleys were home to creatures that moved silently, predators that could strike without warning. Leora's heart pounded in her chest, partly from pain, partly from anxiety. Ethan motioned for her to stop. He crouched behind a large boulder, eyes scanning the area. "We're not alone," he whispered. "There's something following us. Stay close and quiet." Leora nodded, gripping the staff she carried for support. Her leg throbbed with every step, but she refused to falter. The predators of Valdera were fast, and she knew that slowing down too much could be dangerous. She had survived battles before, but fighting while injured and with no backup would be her greatest challenge yet. The first creature appeared suddenly, a shadow gliding through the trees with a sleek, black body, glowing eyes, and jagged claws. It moved silently, but its gaze was fixed on them. Ethan held up a hand to signal Leora to freeze. "Wait. We need a plan," he murmured. Leora's eyes narrowed. "It's coming for us," she said. "We can't outrun it in this valley. My leg won't hold." Ethan studied the creature, then pointed to the narrow gap between two boulders. "We'll use that. It can't fit through the rocks. Move fast when I give the signal." They waited, hearts racing. The predator crept closer, claws scraping against the stone, and a low growl echoed through the valley. Leora held her breath, pain flashing through her leg with every tense muscle. Ethan's hand gripped hers briefly, steadying her. Then with a swift motion he ran toward the gap, pulling her along. The creature lunged, but it was too large to fit. Its claws scratched the rocks, and it hissed angrily as they disappeared from its path. Both of them gasped for breath once the creature was gone. Leora sank against a boulder, trembling. "That could have ended badly," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "We'll need to be more careful. This valley isn't just dangerous because of Empire patrols. The wildlife is a threat too." They pressed on, navigating the valley cautiously. Each step was a struggle for Leora, but she refused to rely entirely on Ethan. He helped when necessary, but she pushed herself to endure, knowing that her survival depended on her own determination as much as on his assistance. As evening approached, they reached a small plateau overlooking a river. The water was clear, and the surrounding trees offered potential shelter. Ethan motioned for her to rest while he scouted the area for safety. He returned shortly, a smile on his face. "This looks good for the night. We can rest, eat, and treat your leg more thoroughly." Leora allowed herself to relax slightly. She trusted him more than anyone else in days, but the tension in her muscles didn't completely leave. She cleaned her leg with the water from the river while Ethan applied fresh bandages. The pain was sharp but manageable, and Leora felt a small sense of accomplishment. "You're getting stronger," Ethan said. "Every step we take, your leg heals a little more. You're pushing through the pain, and that's important." Leora smiled faintly. It's not just about the leg. It's about not giving up. I can't stop now, not when my people, not when hope is still alive. Night fell and the river reflected the stars above. The valley was alive with nocturnal sounds, but the creatures seemed cautious around the water. They set up a small camp on the plateau, careful to stay hidden. Leora rested, feeling safer but still alert. Ethan kept watch, scanning the darkness for threats. The night passed without incident, but the next day brought new dangers. While moving through a narrow pass between rocky cliffs, they stumbled upon an Empire patrol. Soldiers equipped with scanning devices and energy weapons blocked their path. Leora froze, fear threatening to overwhelm her. Her leg hurt with every step and hiding seemed impossible. Ethan crouched beside her. "We can't fight them," he whispered. "We need to use the terrain. Follow my lead." He led her behind a large rock out of the line of sight. The patrol moved slowly, scanning the area. Leora's breathing was shallow, her mind racing. She had faced enemies before, but humans had taught her strategies that relied not just on strength but on intelligence and observation. She watched how the soldiers moved, their patterns, and relayed the information quietly to Ethan. Together they devised a small plan. Ethan created a distraction by throwing a rock in one direction, while Leora, using her knowledge of the terrain, crawled quietly through a narrow crevice on the other side. The patrol's attention shifted to the noise, and they did not notice the princess slipping away with Ethan close behind. Once they were safely out of the patrol's range, Leora allowed herself to breathe again. "I don't know how we did it," she said, amazed. "I thought we would be caught for sure." Ethan shook his head. "It's not luck. It's observation, planning, and trust. You stayed calm, even with the pain. And that's why it worked." The afternoon passed with them moving cautiously through the rocky terrain, avoiding open spaces and staying in the shadows. Leora's leg ached, but the adrenaline from evading the patrol kept her moving. They shared quiet moments talking about their hopes, fears, and the importance of freedom. Leora began to feel a connection growing, not just because he had saved her, but because he respected her as an equal, not a helpless princess. As the sun began to set, they reached a dense thicket near a cliff edge. Leora stumbled slightly and Ethan caught her quickly. "Careful," he warned. "We're almost to the forest that will hide us for the night." She nodded, her face flushed with pain and determination. "I can do this. I have to do this." The forest greeted them like a protective wall. Trees thickened and shadows stretched long across the ground. Predators would be harder to see here, but the dense foliage offered cover from the Empire's patrols. They moved carefully, finding a secluded spot to rest. Ethan checked Leora's leg again, applying fresh bandages and ensuring it was stable. "You're holding up better than I expected," he said. "Every day you keep moving, every obstacle you overcome, you get stronger. You're more resilient than most I've met." Leora's eyes softened. "I never thought I would need anyone outside my people. And yet, you've helped me survive. I can't explain it, but I feel hopeful." Ethan smiled. "Hope is powerful. It keeps us going when everything else seems lost. And you're a perfect example of it. You've endured so much and still fight." That night, as they rested under the trees, Leora realized something important. Survival was not just about strength or speed. It was about partnership, strategy, and trust. With Ethan by her side, she had a chance not only to survive but to continue the rebellion, to bring hope to her people. The stars above Valdara twinkled brightly, and for the first time since the ambush, Leora allowed herself to dream of a future where freedom could exist. She knew the path ahead would be difficult. The Empire's reach was vast and danger was everywhere, but together, with human ingenuity and alien determination, they had a real chance to succeed. And that chance, she realized, was worth every step, every struggle, and every moment of pain endured. The forest had grown darker as night approached, the thick canopy above blocking most of Valdara's dim sunlight. Shadows twisted across the ground, and distant sounds of nocturnal creatures made every rustle of leaves a potential threat. Leora and Ethan moved carefully, alert to every sound, every movement. Her leg ached sharply, but she refused to stop. Every step mattered. They were getting closer to a safe zone where the rebel forces had hidden a small sanctuary. Ethan signaled for her to pause. "I hear something ahead," he whispered. His eyes scanned the shadows, catching a faint glow of lights. It was not from the stars. The pattern was too organized, too deliberate. "Empire patrols," he said quietly. "They're close and we need to be smart." Leora's heart raced. They had evaded patrols before, but she knew the Empire would not give up easily. Their scouts were trained to track even the faintest traces of movement. She gritted her teeth. "We can't run, my leg." She winced, pressing her hand to the wound. Ethan crouched beside her. "We don't need to run blindly. We need a plan. Follow me." He led her through a narrow path hidden between thick tree trunks and tangled roots. The patrol moved slowly, searching the forest carefully. Leora and Ethan stayed low, moving silently, each step calculated. They could hear the soldiers communicating in low tones, the hum of scanning devices moving through the underbrush. Suddenly, one of the patrols paused, shining a small searchlight toward their direction. Leora froze, her breath caught in her throat. Ethan grabbed her arm, signaling her to stay still. The light swept past them, glinting off the leaves, but it did not land directly on them. The soldiers murmured among themselves and continued their patrol. Leora exhaled slowly once the danger passed. "That was too close," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "We're not safe yet. We need to move while they're distracted." He pointed to a narrow ravine nearby. "If we climb down here, we can avoid the main path and lose them. It's risky, but it's our best chance." Leora glanced at the steep slope, fear flickering across her face. "I don't know if I can—" "My leg." "You can," Ethan said firmly. "I'll help you. One step at a time. Trust me." She nodded, taking a deep breath. Together, they carefully descended the ravine, Ethan supporting her weight while she pressed her good leg firmly against the rocks. Every movement was painstaking, but they made it down without alerting the patrol. When they reached the bottom, they paused to rest, hearts pounding from fear and exertion. "You're stronger than I thought," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "Even in pain, you keep moving." Leora looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and determination in her eyes. "I have to. I can't let my people down. I can't let hope die." The patrol moved on, their lights disappearing into the distance. Leora and Ethan continued, choosing paths that kept them hidden, using their knowledge of the terrain to avoid further contact. Hours passed as they moved cautiously, the forest giving way to rocky plains dotted with strange alien flora. Just as dawn began to break, painting the sky with streaks of orange and red, they reached a small plateau. From this vantage point, Leora could see a settlement in the distance, partially hidden by the hills. It was small but fortified, with barricades and watchtowers. Her heart leapt with hope. "That must be the rebel sanctuary," she whispered. "We're close," Ethan nodded. "We need to approach carefully. We don't know who is watching or what dangers might remain." They descended toward the settlement, using the rocks and vegetation as cover. As they drew nearer, they were suddenly confronted by a group of Empire soldiers who had discovered their trail. Leora froze in shock, her leg sending a sharp pain through her body. Ethan immediately moved in front of her, assessing the situation. "They're blocking the path," Ethan whispered. "We can't fight them directly, they outnumber us. But we can use the terrain to our advantage." Leora's mind raced. She knew the surrounding hills and rocks better than anyone. "The cliffside," she said quickly. "If we move toward the edge, they can't follow easily." "I can guide you," Ethan nodded. "Let's do it. Follow my lead and stay close." Together they moved quickly but cautiously, darting from rock to rock, avoiding open ground where the soldiers could aim their energy weapons. Leora used every bit of knowledge she had about Valdara's landscape to predict enemy movements and find cover. Ethan followed closely, using his agility and quick thinking to counter any sudden threats. One soldier raised his weapon, aiming directly at them. Ethan reacted instantly, using a low rock to shield Leora while signaling her to move to the side. The shot struck the rock, leaving a scorch mark, but they were safe. Leora's heart pounded, but she pushed herself to keep moving. The cliffside finally came into view, a steep drop with jagged rocks below. Leora's pulse raced. "We can't climb down completely," she said. "It's too dangerous for my leg." Ethan looked around and spotted a narrow ledge that ran along the cliff, partially hidden by shadows. "If we take this ledge, we can move along the cliffside and reach safer ground. It's risky, but it's our best chance." Leora nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. "Then let's do it." Carefully, they edged along the narrow ledge, the drop below making every step a challenge. Leora's leg throbbed painfully, but she moved slowly and deliberately, trusting Ethan to guide her. The Empire soldiers were close behind, but the narrow ledge slowed them down and they could not pursue effectively. Suddenly, One soldier slipped on the edge, his cry echoing through the valley. The others hesitated, giving Leora and Ethan a precious advantage. They quickened their pace, moving as swiftly as they could without losing balance. Finally, they reached the base of the cliff, hidden by a thick cluster of rocks and alien vegetation. They paused, breathing heavily, hearts racing from fear and exertion. The Empire patrol had been temporarily thrown off their trail, giving them a chance to move safely toward the rebel sanctuary. Leora sank to the ground, tears of relief streaming down her face. We made it," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan smiled, helping her to sit against a rock. "Not completely safe yet, but this is a big step. You've been amazing. Even wounded, you never gave up." Leora looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and something deeper, trust, respect, and the beginnings of a bond forged through shared danger. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to. Just keep moving forward. That's all that matters." They rested briefly, catching their breath and allowing Leora's leg to recover slightly. Then together they continued toward the sanctuary, moving cautiously but with renewed hope. The landscape began to change. The rocks gave way to more stable terrain, and the first signs of human and alien habitation appeared. Small buildings, watchtowers, and barricades marked the hidden refuge. As they approached, Leora's loyal followers emerged from the shadows. Their faces, once pale with fear, lit up with relief. "Princess," one of them shouted. "We thought you were lost." Leora smiled faintly, exhausted but triumphant. "I'm here," she said, "and not alone." She gestured toward Ethan, who stepped forward humbly. The rebels stared at the human with surprise and curiosity. He had risked everything to help their princess, and his calm courage had carried her through dangers they could not have overcome. Leora's eyes sparkled with pride and gratitude. "This human saved my life," she said. "He is my ally, and he has shown that courage and kindness can exist in every species." The rebel leader stepped forward, nodding in respect. "Your bravery brought you here, Princess. And this human, he has earned our trust. Together, we have a chance to continue the fight for freedom." Leora felt a surge of determination. Her legs still ached, her body was worn, but her spirit was unbroken. With Ethan by her side, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Empire was powerful, but hope was stronger. With courage, intelligence, and unity, even the darkest forces could be challenged. As night fell over the sanctuary, Leora and Ethan looked out at the horizon. The stars shone brightly, and the gentle hum of the rebel camp carried a sense of safety and possibility. Leora realized that survival was not enough. They had the opportunity to inspire change, to give hope to those who had none. And with that thought, a new determination settled within her. The battle was far from over, but together human and alien could achieve the impossible. The sanctuary was alive with activity as Leora and Ethan arrived. Rebel fighters moved through the camp, checking supplies, reinforcing barricades, and preparing for the next steps in their struggle against the Empire. The air was tense, but it carried hope. A hope that had been renewed by Leora's survival. Her presence inspired everyone, and the addition of Ethan, the human who had risked everything, gave the rebels a renewed sense of unity and purpose. Leora limped slightly, leaning on a staff, but her eyes were bright with determination. She surveyed the camp, recognizing familiar faces and feeling a surge of relief. "I'm home," she whispered quietly to herself. Though the word carried more weight than just a location, it was the feeling of survival, of having escaped impossible odds, and of returning to the people she had vowed to protect. Ethan followed close behind, careful not to strain her injured leg. The rebels regarded him with cautious curiosity, unfamiliar with humans who risked themselves so selflessly. Leora spoke first, her voice carrying authority despite her exhaustion. "This human saved me from certain death," she said. "He guided me, protected me, and proved that courage knows no species. He is my ally, and I trust him completely." The rebel leader stepped forward, his eyes meeting Ethan's. There was respect in his gaze, mixed with relief. "If he has kept the princess alive through enemy territory, then he has earned our trust," he said. "Welcome. You are among friends." Ethan inclined his head humbly. "I only did what was right. She needed help, and I could not leave her behind." Leora's gaze softened as she looked at him. "And you have given me more than help, you have given hope." The evening descended and the camp settled into a rhythm of preparation and planning. Leora moved among her people, checking on those who had survived, offering encouragement and listening to reports of small skirmishes and intelligence gathered about the Empire's movements. Her legs still throbbed, but her mind was clear, focused, and determined. She was the leader of the rebellion, and now she had a renewed chance to guide her people toward freedom. Ethan stayed nearby, helping where he could, carrying supplies, repairing equipment, and assisting in the planning sessions. Though he was human, his perspective was invaluable. His experience with strategy, improvisation, and observation provided insights the rebels had not considered. Slowly, Leora realized that humans and aliens could work together in ways that could make even the most difficult challenges manageable. As the night deepened, Leora finally allowed herself a moment of rest. She sat by the edge of the camp staring up at the stars above Valdara. Ethan joined her, offering her a drink of water. She took it gratefully, her body aching from the day's exertion but her spirit uplifted. "You've done well," Ethan said quietly. "Not just surviving, but keeping your focus and helping your people prepare. That takes strength beyond what most can imagine." Leora smiled faintly. "I couldn't have done it without you. You believed in me when even I wasn't sure I could continue. That means more than I can say." He shook his head. "You believed in yourself. I just helped guide you. Courage was always yours." For a moment they sat in silence, the sounds of the camp around them, the hum of activity, and the distant call of night creatures creating a strange comfort. Leora realized how much she had relied on Ethan, not just physically but emotionally. His calm confidence, his patience, and his unwavering dedication had carried her through dangers she could never have faced alone. The next morning, the Council of Rebel Leaders convened to discuss the next steps. Maps were spread across a large table, and reports from scouts detailed the Empire's movements. Leora took her place at the center, her voice steady and commanding despite her recent injuries. "We have survived the worst," she said. "The Empire believes the rebellion is weakened, but they are wrong. We are stronger than they realize. We have courage, intelligence, and allies who are willing to risk everything for freedom. Our survival is proof that hope cannot be destroyed." The leaders nodded in agreement, inspired by her words. Ethan stood beside her, providing insights on tactical movements, supply routes, and ways to use the terrain to their advantage. The council listened carefully, impressed by his knowledge and ability to think quickly under pressure. Leora turned to him. "Your help has been invaluable. Together we can plan strikes that will protect our people and disrupt the Empire's advances." Ethan smiled faintly. "We're a team. That's all that matters. Strategy and courage, combined, they're unstoppable." Over the following days, Leora and Ethan worked closely with the rebels. They trained fighters, reinforced the sanctuary's defenses, and devised clever ways to sabotage the Empire's patrols without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. Leora's leadership, combined with Ethan's guidance, inspired a renewed sense of confidence among the fighters. Each small victory, a successful ambush, a safe passage through enemy territory, a repaired outpost, strengthened the rebellion and their belief in eventual freedom. One afternoon, as they walked along the edge of the camp, Leora spoke quietly to Ethan. "I never imagined that survival could lead to something greater. Not just for me, but for my people. You've shown me that hope can exist even in the darkest times." Ethan glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "Hope is powerful. It can inspire courage, give strength, and unite people. You've had that all along, Leora. I just helped you realize it." Leora looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I want to continue fighting. Not just for survival, but for a future where freedom is possible for everyone on Valdara. And I want you by my side, not just as a helper, but as a true ally." Ethan nodded. "I'm with you. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Days turned into weeks, and the sanctuary grew more secure. Scouts returned with valuable intelligence, rebels trained under Leora's guidance, and small victories against the Empire boosted morale. Leora's injuries healed slowly, but she never allowed herself to rest completely. Every day was an opportunity to strengthen her people, plan for the next battle, and ensure that hope remained alive. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, Leora stood atop a small hill overlooking the camp. Ethan joined her, standing quietly beside her. The view was breathtaking, the valleys below filled with the silhouettes of their people preparing for the night. "We've come a long way," Leora said softly, "from being abandoned and injured to standing here planning for freedom." "I couldn't have imagined it." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't just survive. You inspired everyone here. Your courage carried them through despair. And together, we've shown that even in a world full of danger, hope can prevail." Leora smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced since before the ambush. She realized that survival was no longer just about escaping death. It was about living with purpose, fighting for justice and inspiring others to do the same. The following morning, the council gathered once again, this time to plan a coordinated effort against the Empire's main supply line. Leora stood at the center, her voice clear and commanding. "We have survived because we refused to give up. Now we fight not just for survival, but for the future of our people. Every move we make, every action we take must bring us closer to freedom." The rebels cheered, their determination renewed. Ethan assisted in the strategy, offering insight and guidance while respecting Leora's leadership. Together, they created a plan that combined courage, intelligence, and careful observation, traits that defined the very best of both humans and aliens. As the plan was set in motion, Leora turned to Ethan. "We've proven that survival is possible even against overwhelming odds. But now we show that freedom is possible too, and I could not have done this without you." Ethan shook his head, smiling humbly. "You did it all. I just helped where I could. Courage and determination were always yours." The night before their first major strike against the Empire's supply line, Leora and Ethan stood together on the hill, watching the stars above. The wind carried the sounds of the camp below, and the quiet of the night was both peaceful and tense. Leora realized that the journey they had taken, through danger, pain, and uncertainty, had forged not only her strength but also an unbreakable bond between them. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "we fight not just for survival, but for hope, for freedom, and for the future of Valdara. And we do it together." Ethan nodded. "Together." The stars shone brightly, a silent promise that even in the darkest times, courage, determination, and unity could prevail. Leora knew the battle was far from over, but for the first time in her life she felt truly unstoppable. She had survived, she had hope, and she had an ally she could trust completely. And in that moment, standing on the hill with Ethan by her side, Leora understood the most important truth of all. Even when abandoned, injured, or facing impossible odds, humanity, whether alien or human, could rise above fear, despair, and oppression. Together they could achieve the impossible. The dawn came over Valdara, and the fight for freedom began, not as a battle of desperation, but as a fight with purpose, courage, and hope lighting the way.